I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Who are you?
Hey, this is Matt once again. What about another review? There's another paid request, this time for Aaron Daniel, and it is for part 2 of The Stand. Now, what I mean by that is I reviewed part 1. This is technically 4 parts. There's The Plague, The Dreams, The Betrayal, and The Stand. I know there's a new one that looks like dog shit, but this is something I saw back in the day on ABC when it debuted. It was 4 nights, and I believe they skipped it. I think it was one after the other, then they skipped a night, and then they had one on part 3 on night. I think it was around 5 days, because I do think they skipped one after. Who gives a shit? I saw it back in the day, because back then they would show these Stephen King miniseries on ABC, and it would be 4 of them. So you had Stephen King's It, which I saw and really enjoyed. This one, I believe you had The Langoliers, The Tommyknockers, The Shining. I'm not sure if they all debuted on ABC, but a lot of them did. And I enjoyed it for the cast. You got Rob Lowe, you have Molly Ringwald, you have Gary Sinise, you have Matt Frewer from Max Headroom and Taking to Beverly Hills, you have Miguel Ferrer, may you rest in peace, you have Ray Walston, the original My Favorite Martian, many other things he's been in, Bill Fagerbati, the guy who's on the TV show Coach with Craig T. Nelson, Shawnee Smith is in it. Ruby Dee as Mother Abigail. Jamey Sheridan, I thought, did a really good job playing Flag, our villain. He was having a lot of fun with the role. This one guy, Corin Nemec, as Harold, the nerdy guy who turns to the dark side. He was on, I want to say, one of the Stargate TV shows for a bit. I thought it was a very solid cast. I also enjoyed the score. I thought it fit the production fairly well. It does show it's a TV made budget by some of the special effects not be the best, like when the demon Flag is his bright red eyes is not the best effects. And it has a big scope, but it's still made for TV. So it's not as big of a scope as the potential could be. But I said I like the cast. That elevates it quite a bit. But I've always maintained that I think the best part is the first part, The Plague. Because to me, that's the more scary, that's the more intense, that's the predicament of the plague. And I mentioned, because I did review part 1 of this, with the things that have happened in the past year or two, that seems the thing that's the more prevalent. This plague that wipes out most of the world. I thought that really amped up the intensity of just how the government is hush-hush about it and try to keep other people hush-hush or will shoot you, and introducing your certain players like Molly Ringwald and Gary Sinise, and the dwindling down of society. You had appearances by Kathy Bates and Ed Harris, and not too much of the demon stuff, not too much of the supernatural stuff. It just obviously meaning it felt more real, it felt more, I said more scary, because that's something that would happen. I want to believe in the other world, the paranormal, but I think a plague is more susceptible to happen to us than God devil taking a stand thing. So again, that among others is why I always maintain the first part is the best part, and it's kind of the problem is when the first is the best, there's only one way to go, is downhill. And I do think the last part is the weakest part, because I always thought the ending sucked. And I liked the film, but I thought the ending was very weak. But that's more on the source material. That's not really the movie's fault, it's the source material. And then Stephen King wrote this as well. So blame Stephen King, not Mick Garris, the director. And you could tell Stephen King hired him because he didn't want a guy that would do his own vision or do whatever the fuck he wants. Because I think one of the people, I believe the studio or ABC, they wanted Brian De Palma. I believe, from what I read, they wanted Brian De Palma to do this. Makes sense. He did Carrie, and I don't know if Brian De Palma would do a miniseries, but maybe. He's a good director. But I think Stephen King said, no, I want, this is one of his precious novels, he wants someone he could control. I think Mick Garris is one of those guys that, he's made films I enjoy, Critters 2, the main course, but he doesn't really have a vision. I never thought of Mick Garris as having a vision. Just punch the card in, do a movie, some better than others. You have Critters 2, then you have, Sleepwalkers. Which I don't know if I hate Sleepwalkers, but it's not Stephen King, not one of the better ones. Doesn't someone get killed with a corn on the cob to the head, and the girl's like, you should always eat your vegetables, or some fucking shit like that. I like cats, so the cats were the heroes. That was cool. But we get back to this. Mick Garris does a tolerable directing job with the scope he had to bring with a TV budget. Once again, the cast, Gary Sinise and Molly Ringwald, Rob Lowe, they're very solid. The guy, Adam Storke, as Larry, who's like from Jersey, New York, he plays guitar, he's alright. I don't know why, he seems like a guy that should have been played by someone like John Stamos at the time or something. I don't know. And this is where I didn't hate it. You get more into the supernatural. It feels like more of a build-up. Part 2. We gotta get these characters to meet these other characters, and we gotta get these other characters to meet other characters in order to get to their destination. You could almost say this part is almost a filler episode of a TV show. So Molly Ringwald has to bury her dad and meets up with the nerdy Corin Nemec, and they go on their journey. Then they meet Gary Sinise, who met Ray Walston, and they all meet. And you get the idea that maybe Gary Sinise and Molly Ringwald will become an item, which they do later on. Ruby D sending out these dreams to bring them, if you don't get here, come to Colorado. Jamey Sheridan getting his group. Trash Man, Matt Frewer, this crazy guy that likes to blow up shit. And Matt Frewer does a good job playing crazy. Jamey Sheridan going to a prison to get Miguel Ferrer. Again, always nice to see Miguel Ferrer. Very, very underrated actor. This is a guy that should have been cast in a lot more movies. And there's not many movies he got to be the star. And I think that was a shame. He was in this one that wasn't that great called The Harvest. Forgettable at the end of the day. And like I said, Jamey Sheridan, he's having fun playing the devil. Oh, what are you doing there? Must suck here, nothing to eat here but rat tartar. Bad luck, man. Like, he's joyful being evil. And you can see why people would draw to this guy if he's acting like this and having this fun personality, having fun at his job. You see why people would gravitate towards him who are on that dark path. And he gets Miguel Ferrer out of jail. And there's a lot of like people meeting other people. Like Rob Lowe meets with Bill, who plays Tom Cullen. He's a guy who's not all there. M-O-O-N, that's Bill's hobby. Tom Cullen. M-O-O-N, that's Bill's Tom Cullen. So, but that in the wrong hands could be irritating. I don't know, a lot of people call it cheesy. But I thought for what type of character he was playing, Bill played it fairly well, as did Rob Lowe. And I thought they actually had, again, people deem that friendship as cheesy. I thought they worked well together. Sweet, some may say sugary sweet, but I was fine with it because, you know, I like both actors. I thought they worked well together. And, you know, you have a guy who can't talk, can't hear, and then you have a guy who's not the smartest, but he's very sweet, gentle soul. They fit well together, I thought. And, like, they meet Shawnee Smith from the Blah remake, who's a batshit crazy lady. You also have Laura San Giacomo, who meets up with the one guy, Larry, but yet the idea she's being seduced with Jamey Sheridan, so she's going to go off to the dark side. And then a group of people, Rob Lowe and Bill, they get there first to Ruby D. Like I say, it's very much a build-up episode. Bringing up other characters, people finally getting together in their groups and going towards their destinations. I guess in a weird way, like the first part, I think is the best part. I think the ending is the weakest part. And this one's the filler part. Kind of one of those you watch, but you other than good actors you enjoy and some character interactions, there's not a whole lot of action. It's not a whole lot of horror or scare factor, except there's a bit where the one guy, Larry, is going through the Lincoln Tunnel, and there's all these dead bodies around. Nothing happens to him, but it's more of, you know, that was decently done, showcasing the atmosphere of the tunnel and the claustrophobia of the tunnel and shining a light and all these dead bodies just filling that tunnel up. For its TV budget, it wasn't too bad with the way it was shot and the way the pacing was in that scene. Like I said, some of the effects don't hold the best. Like, there's a point where Gary Sinise has a dream, sees Ruby D come over there, but then there's the bad guy, and Jamey Sheridan fights Gary Sinise, and you have the deep voice and these fake-looking eyes, red eyes. They look pretty chintzy, pretty like. That's where the TV budget shows. To be fair, to, you know, take off the rose-tinted glasses, they don't look that great. And I said the Larry character isn't really that interesting compared to the other. Maybe because I don't know the actor, so I don't have that easy gateway. I really enjoy Gary Sinise. I really enjoy Rob Lowe. I don't know this other guy, so it's not that he's bad. Adam Storke is just he seems like a guy that reminds me of someone else, and maybe that's what gets me distracted. I'm like, who does he remind me of? That's why I maybe keep thinking of it. It reminds me of someone. I'm paying more attention to that and less attention to himself. Well, that's my own fault, I guess. Spoiler, one interesting thing, watch it again, is there's a part where Ruby D, Mother Abigail, is talking with Rob Lowe. And she's almost crying when she's talking to Rob Lowe. And in the spoilers, I wonder, in retrospect, this was her knowing, realizing that this guy's going to die, self-sacrifice in, I think it's part 3. Yeah, the betrayal, part 3. Because there's a bomb and he gets people out, and but you can't hear it, so, you know, self-sacrifice. I wondered, like, Ruby Dee knows that, and that's why she's crying when she's talking to Rob Lowe. And there's certain reaction she has to Rob Lowe that makes me think, again, she knows, but she can't say anything because that's the plan. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. Like I said, the score, I think, is very well done. I particularly like the score. Wish I could remember who... Oh, I'll say in here, this is a booklet. W.G. Walden, guitarist, acoustic electric slide guitar. Yeah, really enjoyed W.G. Walden's score, especially the more sweet moments of it. And like I said, The Stand, it does have its issues. Like I said, the TV budget does hinder it at times. I can understand at some points calling it, I wouldn't use the word cheesy, but being sugary sweet. But I guess for me, compared to films nowadays, I'm kind of fine with that. Because I'd rather have a film have too much heart than none at all. And like I said, I do think the cast elevates the material. But yeah, on the flip side, I'll repeat again, the first half, like the first part, I do think is the strongest part. And then once getting more into the actual plot of the supernatural, it kind of becomes less interesting. And I wonder if I'm the only one that feels that way. But again, that's not the movie's fault, that's the source material. But it is, again, still decent to watch. But it is a part that I don't know if a lot will get a whole... If you don't know the actors, or if you don't begin to care for the characters, I'm not sure if you're going to get a lot out of this. That's up to the viewer, I guess. But it did bring back some nostalgia memories of watching this back in the day, and that was cool as well, to relive that, so to speak. So with that said, not much else to say. It's a pretty straightforward part. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.